What is up, YouTube? It's Kingfisher745, and welcome to a brand new episode of Poor Man's PvP. This is the series where I'll take low-cost teams and absolutely no gold weapons whatsoever into the current PvP meta and try to compete and win. So here we are looking at episode 5 setup. First, my agent's using the generalist and powered armor that I think that most of us have because it was given away for free. Then I am using a special E-ISO called the Inspiring and Powered ISO 8. It provides morale boost which boosts all stats for your entire team. And yes, I know this costs 10 gold, but truthfully this is one of the most important things that you can buy, and I think it's something that everyone should have if you're going to use this uniform. Next, I'm using She-Hulk, who only costs 15 CP, and trust me, she's very useful even without her alternate costume. As far as her E-ISO, I'm using her Furious and Powered ISO 8 that you can farm in Season 2, Chapter 5, Mission 1. This Empowered ISO 8 for her is really amazing because it causes her to gain Hulk up each round and when she's attacked. Then I also have her special A-ISO, the Boxing Augmented ISO 8, and you can get that in Season 2, Chapter 5, Mission 6. This will cause her level 1 to apply Hulk up as well. Then moving on to Wasp, I'm using her character-specific E-ISO as well, the Irritating and Powered ISO 8. And one thing I want to mention about both She-Hulk and Wasp is yes, we do have another E-ISO slot, but don't worry that much about being able to afford Relentless or Blurred. Those are just two options that I chose. You can honestly go with whatever you have available because their character-specific E-ISO is by far the most important one. And like I said, both of those are farmable and they're in current Season 2 missions. Then moving on to my weapons and gadgets. First we have the Flashy Gun. This weapon is here to contribute opportunist debuffs, which helps with both Wasp and She-Hulk. Plus it's a weapon that you can use on any round when you don't have any other options available, and it's an AoE attack so you can use it whenever you're disoriented. This weapon can be found in Season 2, Chapter 6, Mission 6, and it's available in Challenge Mode. Next we have our heavy damage weapon, the Serpentine Staff. The reason this weapon works out perfectly with this team is because it has Exploit Opportunity. It also applies Intimidated to the enemy, and it grows in power based on your level. Now in order to get this weapon, you have to complete all of Chapter 6 missions in Challenge Mode. This weapon is pretty powerful and does a considerable amount of damage. The only problem is it does have a cooldown. Then speaking of cooldowns, unfortunately our first gadget, the Sharpshooter Patch, also starts cooldown. However, there is good news because you'll want to use this with the Serpentine Staff, which means you'll want to wait until those opportunist debuffs are applied anyways. So the starting cooldown on this item really isn't that terrible, at least in this setup. By the way, you can find this item in Season 2, Chapter 6, Mission 3. It also is from Challenge Mode. Then finally, we're using the Psychic Amplifier, even though I'm truly not that impressed with this item, at least since it was nerfed. Our main problem is, I think we need at least some chance of removal, and this does have a 60% chance. So anyways, you can get this from Season 2, Chapter 5, Mission 4, and it's also in Challenge Mode. But if you have the Scroll of Ankylab, or a way to get that from an incursion, I would tend to recommend that over this item for this team. Or obviously if you have the cube, you're going to use that, but you won't find that in a Poor Man's PvP episode. Where you will find it is in the premium version of this team, the bonus episode, or Rich Man's version if you will. Whatever you prefer to call it, there will be a link in the outro, as well as in the description below. So make sure to check that out at the end of this video. Now moving on to our first fight, we are facing a Quicklock team. And as we begin, there is something that I do want to point out. I have a decent amount of health at the beginning, and that's going to change as we move through the video. The change has to do with my hero bonus and the uniforms that I have equipped. At the beginning here I had just about every hero that I could changed over to a tactician. By the end I'm going to have most of them changed back to blasters. This is something that you'll want to take note on yourself, and you'll want to change your hero classes based on what team you're using. With some teams this may take some experimentation and basic trial and error. But just to give you some really easy examples, with a Quicklock team you'll usually want to go all blasters and a very high attack. And on the opposite side of the coin, with a Pestilence Beast and Red Hulk team, you'll want to go all tacticians and with a very high health. So those are just very basic examples of what classes you'll want to change your heroes to based on your team. Having high health in this situation might have saved us because we took quite a beating early. Now the main thing we want to do with Wasp is use our Skirmish Scramble and place some opportunist debuffs on all the enemies. Now because of her E-ISO, every time they attack, she's going to counter. If they hit her teammate, she'll attack once, and if they hit her, she'll counterattack twice. Well, that is as long as she has combat reflexes, which most teams are using a Tactician Agent, and with a little critical hit luck and the Psychic Amplifier boost, she can do some big damage on those counters. With the first of our 2 attacks, we're able to stomp out Quicksilver, and then with our second hit, we'll make sure the enemy agent is gone. Next on my agent's turn, I'm going to use the Sharpshooter patch to make sure my next hit is a guaranteed hit and crit. And we will always use that along with the Serpentine Staff. So here goes our big damage weapon, but of course it would do much more damage if she had more opportunist debuffs. Still, it does score a respectable 33,000 damage crit. So after a Psychic Knife's attack takes us to the very end of our health, we're going to finish it with a Fist Bump. So as you can see, Wasp has a finisher as well, though it's really hard to top She-Hulk Stomp. Moving on to our second match, we've already switched over many of our tacticians to Blaster. As a result, we should see much higher attacks and basically just more killing power in general. After starting with an opening Skirmish Scramble, our She-Hulk is attacked by a Swipe, and she takes nearly 25,000 damage in return. Then for her second attack, she makes the mistake to go after Wasp. That's when you'll see the double counter come into play. So Tigra's already below 2500 HP. On She-Hulk's first turn, I'm going to use Burst of Speed, and then I'm going right after the enemy agent. First, we set him up with a punch, and we make sure that our stomp is going to be a guaranteed crit. It's guaranteed to crit because of breakthrough, and then it also placed wide open and combo setup. That's why if you can, it's always a great idea to use that level 1 first. Next, we'll finish off the enemy Tiger with a flashy gun, and we also do some damage and place debuffs on Cannonball. Then we get one counterattack, and unfortunately he's going to use Kinetic Field. This is going to slightly prolong this battle, but I'm going to place Biofeedback on him. He may reduce damage to 0, but you can still place debuffs. You can also still hit him if you have Ignore Defense, a magic, or psychic attack, so just keep that in mind. Otherwise, just keep putting debuffs on him and wait for him to use that shield up. With my agent, I'm just going to go ahead and use the flashy gun, and then we'll go ahead and see what he does. Unfortunately, after this, he's going to lose his turn, I believe because of Biofeedback. So we're just going to have to make the rounds once again, and we'll just reapply Biofeedback, then just place a few more debuffs, and we'll wait until that kinetic field is gone. The second that happens, trust me, he's gone. After this fight ends, we're going to have one more match, and trust me, I think it's a pretty impressive one. It shows what a team like this can do even with free weapons. Then, like I mentioned earlier, there will be a bonus where I use premium weapons, and I'm also going to equip She-Hulk's E-ISO that's in the store. So if you want to check out the gold version of this team, just make sure to click the link in the outro or in the description below. Now moving on to the final match of this video, we're facing a Red Hulk and Pestilence Beast team. The best part about facing them is we're not going to have any problems putting debuffs on them or keeping debuffs on them for that matter. And also, She-Hulk's going to show you just how explosive she can be. So like normal, we'll begin with our level 1 punch, and then of course it's time to unleash the She-Hulk Stomp. This will be a guaranteed crit as long as it hits. And just like that, the enemy agent's knocked out. Unfortunately, Wasp does have off balance, so she's not counterattacking just yet. But on my agent's turn, I'm going to use the Psychic Amplifier, and hopefully we can remove her debuffs. Next, I'm going to use the flashy gun and try to get a few more opportunist debuffs on the opponents. Okay, that wasn't too great, but it is a setup move. And so is Skirmish Scramble. Besides setting up the opponents with opportunist debuffs, it also gives Wasp Nimble. This is a 50% chance to avoid melee and ranged attacks. Unfortunately for us, Beast once again hits Wasp with the Jekyll and Hyde. I guess we'll just have to live without those counterattacks. Next, a Stomp from She-Hulk drops Red Hulk's health in a hurry. He does use Bulwark, but I'm fairly confident that using the patch and then the Serpentine Staff is going to end his life. This is going to be a guaranteed hit and crit, and we did up our attack bonus by switching to blasters. Alright, so here goes nothing. A 54,000 damage finish. That's not bad for a free weapon, and we don't have any buffs like strengthened or anything. Then we'll just place biofeedback on Beast with Wasp. And on what should be his final turn, it looks like he's going to use his quick action. And we probably could have guessed it. Another Jekyll and Hyde on our Wasp. I can tell you this much, they really didn't want her to counterattack. However, with a burst of speed, we start by using our level 1, and then we're definitely going to finish it with a stomp. So how about 147,000 damage finish from a 15 command point hero? And that's how this episode of Poor Man's PvP is going to end. I really hope you enjoyed the episode, and I want to thank you all for watching. Lastly, I'd like to ask you to please like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, good luck, and take care.